Here in my garage, just bought this new Lamborghini here. Fun to drive up here in the Hollywood Hills. But you know what I like more than materialistic things? Knowledge.
Alright, YouTube, this is a really good pro tip for everybody out there that is having a problem removing their pin from their lower ball joint and their lower control arm. So, the actual pin goes through here, and this is where the lower control arm is. And what you want to do is you want to get a pickle bar and like a 4-pound hammer, and you want to beat the crap out of it. Well, I have a very good strategy for doing this. It has been at least 2 years since any of this was touched by anyone else and may have pulled it out. I don't think they actually pulled this out. So the last time that any of this would have been ever done was factory, which was over 10 years ago. These things did not want to come out. And to show you, let me hit on the trouble light to show you the trouble. That is a stock lower control arm. That is what the ball joint looks like in question. So the first pro tip is that you want to pull off the shock mount, which is from factory a 21 millimeter, and you'll want to use a deep well socket, or if you have one of the through holes, the hard to access sockets, you can use those on a breaker bar. It takes a little bit of effort, but you can break them loose. After about a quarter to a half turn, they get a lot looser. And then these, you just remove a through hole safety cotter pin, and then the castle nut pops off pretty easy on those. But what you end up doing is what I'll show you on the other side. You'll end up putting the pickle bar from the back or from the front, and you want to keep it very stable, and you want to wedge it so it goes over like that, so it clamps around the ball joint bolt, and then you'll pound it from this direction, and it'll eventually wedge it hard enough that it will pop that whole assembly off. That's why I loosened it from the top, because then you actually get a really nice jerk and a pop of it raising, and you know it's free from that lower ball joint. Good fun. Let's go over to the other side. Alright, we're going to find out if the lighting's good enough over here. So this is what the pickle bar looks like. We've got a nice little flashlight here. And as you can see, I did the same thing over here. Popped out the bolts. And for future reference, the way that they go in is that they are pressed in, and they go in that direction, so the bolt head goes towards the front of the car, at least on the passenger side. And if you look at the differences, you can see that there's press markings where they're like splined from being pressed in on the side that has the head towards it. And if you look on the other side, it is a clear through hole with no pressings or anything indicating that it was pressed fit. Alright, so the way the strategy works out is you go ahead and you pop those two bolts out, get it out of the road, and then you work it free and back it off of that mount so it moves freely like this. You'll still have your CV shaft in and everything else because you don't need to remove it yet. And then what you want to do, depending on whichever side of the car you're on, is you'll want to do the following. You will take your foot and you will put it on your pickle bar. And as you can see, the pickle bar is wedged just like that in between the ball joint and where it goes in. As you can see, I've also made sure to pull off that castle nut, which holds it down in case of emergency, that it hasn't seated. but you wedge it in like that. You want to make sure you're not hitting the rivets that hold on the ball joint that's on the lower control arm. So if you do that, you're not going to get anywhere. You want to very strategically position everything roughly like this, and then you'll be able to wedge it and pop it. So the secondary part is you'll want a 4-pound hammer roughly. And hammers are pretty well marked as such. They're like 20 bucks. They're well worth it if you want to beat anything. I was using a 3-pound hammer and wasn't quite getting enough beating out of it. Okay, so what you want to do is you get your hammer, you take your foot, you're going to put your foot on your pickle bar like so, and you're going to press down. And it's going to lock up into position, and you want to try and wedge the pickle bar first as hard as possible up in there and get it angled at about like this, angling to the back of the car. You're going to take your hammer, both hands, and you're going to consistently hit it from about a good striking distance of about that far back, as you can see on the panel. And it's going to take a good couple beatings of that. On this side, it took probably about 5 really good hits. These aren't I'm going to kill somebody hits, but it's more than, it's a dedicated swing, to put it best. But you're going to hit that, and then you're going to hear, if it is actually pretty hard locked in, you're going to hear this actually pop, and you're going to see it raise up. And that's how you know that it is free from the lower ball joint on that control arm. And you're done. Then you just need to lift up that whole assembly, pull it off, and be careful not to mess up any of your CV stuff. I'm not exactly how certain how well all that is actually held together, but that is the next stage. At least for what I'm doing. What you're doing, I don't know. You might just be replacing this or replacing your lower control arm or something, but that's my cheater trick. It seems like most of these pressing tools that get used are sort of designed to have some level of preloaded impact set on whatever it is to transfer the energy better, and then eventually it'll pop. And you're done. Alright, there you go. And you can see that that is job done, because there's the end of the CV spline shaft and where the axle nut goes. Get the light to sort of brighten that up a little bit. That's a lot better, because I found out what that sound was. But there you go. You can see it's been cleanly broken free of that. The last time that any of those would have been pulled off would have been at least 2 years ago. I'm pretty sure that was still OEM never pulled off yet. Because you can pull the CVs, that whole axle end, you can pull that whole thing without removing that whole steering assembly. You literally just have to pull off the tire rods and the shock from the top. Then you can flex it out, and then you can push the CV shaft in, because it does have some slip room in it. You can actually push it back up into the transmission, then you can actually work it out of the wheel bearings and pop it out just like that. If you can't for some reason get that off, you can still get to rest the CV and pull it. But I would definitely recommend to soak that son of a gun in a lot of PB Blaster. Because if you look on the inside of that, you can see it's all pretty well saturated. And I think that may have also helped a little bit, because these had been soaking for about 3 days. And for general purposes, this is a 2005 Impala. Hence why I said that the last time that these were for sure off was before they were assembled in 2005 when the car was built. Onwards to more fun. You have a good day. Or don't have a good day. Don't really care. But Magic PB Blaster, if you want to be environmentally friendly, recommend you go get a Zepp bottle and you take the Zepp Sprayer off the top and you put it on your PB bottle. You go buy a gallon jug of this stuff and you will never be without PB Blaster. You don't have to worry about your can going flat.